Group A. The Prologue. Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. While Nat April with his showers soaked the drought of Marke hath pursed to the rote, and bathed every vein in switch liquor, of which for two engendred is the flower. 5-1 Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath inspired hath in every holt and heath the tendre crops, and the young son hath in the ram his hath cors wyron, and smale fowls make in melody. 10 That slepen all the night with open ye, so priketh hem nature in here courage than longen folk to goon on pilgrimages, and plumbers for to seek in strands, to fern halwes, couthie and sondery lawns. 15 And specially, from every shire's endy of England, to Canterbury they wendy, the holy blissful martyr for to seek, that hem hath holpen, one that they were seek. Heading. From E1. E. Heis, rest his. 8. HL half, rest half. 9. HL fowls, PT lane foals, EHN fowls. 10. HL the, HN I, EI. 12. PT lane then, E than. E. Pilgrimage, by mistake. 13. PTHL Palmers, E. Palmers. 16. HN, conter dash, E. conter dash. 18. E. Seek. Biful that, in that season on a day, 20 inches southwark at the tabard as I lay ready to wend in on my pilgrimage to Canterbury with full devout courage. 2. T. 23-58. At night was come into that hostel rye WL 9 and 20 in a company, 25 of Sondry folk, by eventual wifel and fellowship, and pilgrims were they alle, that toward Canterbury woolden ride, the chambers and the stables waren wide, and WL we waren essayed at best. 30 And shortly, when the sun was to rest, so had I spoken with hem Evershon, that I was of here fellowship anon, and made forward early for to rise, to take our way, as I out of eyes. 19. HN Bifil, E. Bifil. 23. E. Were, rest was. 24. E. HN Campaign. 26. 32. E. Fellowship. HL Pilgrims, E. Pilgrims. 34. E. Hour. 35 But Nathalie's, while I have time and space, ere that I further in this tale pace, methink that according to resound, to tell you all the condition of eke of hem, so as it semed me, 40 And wish they waren, and of what degree, and eke in what array that they were in, and at a night then will I first begin. 35. E. HN Nathalie's. 40. HL Waren, rest were, we're. Night. A night there was, and that a worthy man, that fro the time that he first began 45 to ridin out, he loved chivalry, troth and honor, freedom and courteousy. Full worthy was he in his lord's wear, and thirdo had he ridden, no man foray, as wel in Christendom as heathness, 50 And ever honored for his worthiness. 49. HN HL as, rest is in. At Alessandra he was, one it was one, full oft time he had the board begun above in all nations in Prusse. In Leto had he raised and in Rus, 55 No Christian man so oft of his degree. In journeyed at the Sejique had he be of Algezer, and ridden in Belmarie. At Lais was he, and at Satellite, 3, T 59-92. One they were one, and in the Gretis C60 at many and noble arrive had he be. At mortal battles had he been 15, and foughten for our fight at Tramacine in lists thrice, and I slain his foo. This ilk worthy knight had been also 65 sometime with the lord of Palatai, Aegean and other heathen in Turkey, and evermore he had a sovereign priss. And though that he were worthy, he was wis, and of his port as meek as is a maid. 70 He never yet no villainy any said in all his life, unto no manner white. He was a very parfait jaunty knight. But for to tell len yow of his array, his or were good, but he was nat gay. 75 Of fustian he were to Jipownel besmotered with his haberjown, for he was late come from his voyage, and went for to doon his pilgrimage. 53. E. Naciones. 56. E. Siege. 60. HL Area, CM Area, EHN Army, CP Lane Arm. 62. E. Hour. 64. Pt had, rest had. 67. More. 68. Ehn cm were, rest was. 74. Pt wherein, hl lane was, rest were. Hlhn, he and was. Squire, with him there was his son, a young squire, 80 a lovier, and a lusty bachelor, with lackeys cruel, as they were late in presa. Of 20 year of age he was, I guess. Of his stature he was of even length, and wonderly deliver, and great of strength. 85 and he had been sometime in Chivacaille, in Flandres, in Artois, and Picardy, and born him wel, as of so little space, in hope to standen in his lady grace. Embroidered was he, as it were a mead 90 full of fresh flowers, white and reed. Singing he was, or floiting, all the day, he was as fresh as is the month of May. 4. T 93 to 127. Short was his gown, with sleeves lunge and wide. Wel could he sit on or, and fair ride. 95 he could songes make in wel indite, used and eke dance, and wel per try and write, so ot he lavid, that by nighter till he sleep no more than doth a nightingale. Courteous he was, lowly, and serviceable, 100 in carf byforn his fader at the table. 83. Lane Ewan, rest Eween. 84. Hl Lane Deliur, rest Deliur. Ehn of Greet, cm of Gret, rest Gret of. 85. Lane had. 87. Wheel. 89. 90. Mead, read. 92. Fresh. In, rest is. Ehn Monna, CP month, HLPT lane moneth, CM moneth. 96. Wheel. 98. HLCP sleep, rest slept. More. 99. HLCP lane lowly, EHN PT lowly. Yemen Yemen had he, and servants Namo at that time, for him least ride so, and he was clad in coat and hood of green, a sheaf of peacockars bright and keen 105 under his belt he bar full thriftily, wel could he dress his takel yemenly, his arse drooped not with feathers low, and in his hand he bar a mighty bow. A knot heat had he, with a brune visage. 110 of woadcraft wel could he all the usage. Upon his arm he bar a gay bracer, and by his side a sword and a bocaler, and on that other side a gay dagger, a harneyized wel, and sharpest point of spear, 115 a Christopher on his breast of silver shen. And horny bar, the bodrick was of green, a forster was he, soothly, as I guess. 101. Sarowance. 102. Sue. 104. HLCPPT lane pocock. CM bright, rest bright. 107. Heis. 108. 111. Bar. 113. Luther. 115. HN Christopher, Christopher. Sheen. Prioress. There was also anon, a prioress, that of here smiling was full simple and coy, 120 here gretesteth was but by St. Loy, and she was cleaped Madame Eglantine. Full wel she song the service divine, in Tunden here knows full semelly, and French she spak full fair and fetusly, 125 after the school of Stratford at Bow, for French of Paris was to hear unknow. At meet wel whitod was she with a 5, t 128 to 161. She let no morsel from her lips fall, no wet her fingers in her saw steppe. 130 wel could she carry a morsel, and wel keep, that no drope neefy up on her breast. In courteous eye was set full mush here lest. Here over lip white she so clean, that in here cop was no furthing sen a 135 of grease, when she drunken had here draught. Full semelly after here meat she wrought, and sickerly she was of great disport, and full plaisant, and amiable of port, and pained here to counterfeit share 140 of court, and been estatlic of maneer, and to ben holden digny of reverence. But, for to speaking of her conscience, she was so charitable and so piteous, she would a weep, if that you saw a mouse 145 caught in a trap, if it were deed or bled. Of smale hounds had she, that she fed with roasted flesh, or milk and wastel breed. But sore weep she if a one of ham were deed, or if men smooted with a yerd smirt, 150 in all was conscience and tendre hurt. Full semelly here wimple pinched was, here nose treadies, here eye and grey as glass, here mouth full small, and there to soft and reed, but sickerly she had a fair for heed, 155 it was almost a span brood, I trow, for, hardily, she was nat undergrow. Full fetis was here cloak, as I was wore. Of small coral about here arm she bar a pair of beads, God al with green, 160 and thereon hang a brooch of gold full shan, on which there was first write a crown at 6, T 162 to 195. And after, a more vincit omnia. 122, E. Sung. 123, E. Semele. 131, cm breast, ehn brist. 132, cp mosh, cm mesh, ehn muchel. hl lest, ehn cm list. 134, hl was, rest there was. 137, ehn deport, rest disport. 140, e to bin, hlhn nomit to. 144, hlhn cp lane saw, e saw, cm say it. 146, pt lane had, rest had. 148, lane wept, rest wept, reed weep, cfl 2878. E, any, rest gun, on, 1. 151, E, semele. E, wimple, hn wimple. 160, ehn brooch, rest brooch. Non another non with here had she, 3 priestus, that was here chapeline, and priestus 3. Monk. A monk there was, a fair for the maestri, 166 an outridera, that loved venery, a manly man, to been an abbotable. Full many a dainty or had he in stable, and, one e rude, men might his bridle hear 170 jinglen in a whistling wind as clear, and eke as loud as doth the chapel bell, there as this lord was keeper of the cell. The rule of Saint Maur or of Saint Benete, because that it was old and soundel strite, 175 the silk monk lead old things pace, and held after the new world the space. He yaft nat of that text a pulled hen, that seeth, that hunters been nat holy men, na that a monk, one he is cloisterlies, 180 is licken till a fish that is waterlies, this is to saying, a monk out of his cloister. But thilk text held he nat worth an oyster, and I said, his opinion was good. What should he stood I, and make himself and would, 185 upon a book in cloister alway to pour, or swinkin with his hands, and labor, as Austin bit? How shall the world be served? Lat Austin have his swink to him reserved. Therefore he was a prickous or a right, 190 greyhounds he had, as swift as fowl in flight, of priking and of hunting for the hare was all his lust, for no cost wolde he spare. I say his sleeves purfled at the han with grys, and that the finest of a London, 195 and, for to fasten his hood under his chin, 7, t at 196 to 231. He had of gold wrought a curious pin, a love knot in the greater endy there was. His head was bald, that shone as any glass, and eke his face, as he had been anoint. 200 he was a lord full fat and in good point, his eye and steep, and rolling in his head, that stemmed as a fornies of a lead, his both supple, his or in greed estat. Now certainly he was a fair prelat, 205 he was nat pale as a ferpined gust. A fat swan loved he best of any roost. His palfrey was as brune as is a burai. 170, HLCP whistling, E. Whistlinge. ECM ALS, lane also, HL so, rest as. 176, EHN, healed, CM, held. 178, HN, HL bin, E. Beth. 179, HL cloistrels, EHN irrecheles, CPPT lane rechels, CM Greekheels, 10 brink proposes recitles. 182, EHN, healed, CM, held. 188, E. his oeen, rest omoeen. 190, HL swift, rest swift. 193, HLHN, perfiled, CM, perfiled, E. perfiled. 196, HLA, rest a full. 196, 218. Lane had, rest had. 199, it, rest he. 203, 4. Estit, prelate. Frere. A frere there was, a wanton and a merry, a limidar, a full solemn man. 210 inches alla the ordres for is noon that can so much of dalliance and fair language. He had mad full many a marriage of young woman, at his own cost. Unto his order he was a noble post. 215 full wel beloved and familiar was he with Frankelines overall in his country, and eke with worthy woman of the tune, for he had power of confession, as said himself, more than a curate. 220 for of his order he was licentiate. Full sweetly heard he confession, and plaisant was his absolution. He was an essay man to yev penance there as he wist to han a good pitance. 225 for unto a pauvre order for to yive is signa that a man is wel wyshrive. For if he yav, he durst make a vaunt, he wist that a man was repentant. For many a man so hard as of his hurt, 230 he may not weep althok him sore smirt. Therefore, instead of weeping in prayers, 232 to 265. Men mood yev silver to the pauvre frères. His tippet was I farced full of knives and pins, for to yevon fair wives. 235 and certainly he had a merry note, wel coude he singe and playin on a rote. Of yettings he bar utterly the priss. His neck whyt was as the flower de lis, 30 he strong was as a champion. 240 he knew the taverns wel in every tune, and evrich hostler and tapister bet than a lazar or a begaster, for unto switch a worthy man as he accord nat, as by his faculty. 245 to have with seek lazar's acquaintance. It is nat honest, it may nat avance for to delen with no switch pori, but al with riche and sellers of the tale. And over al, there is profit shoulder rise. 250 courteous he was, and lowly of service. There nay s no man nowhere so virtuous. He was the best beggar in his house. 252b, and yaffa certain firm for the grunt. 252 see noon of his brethren cam there in his haunt forthok a widwy had not a show, so plaisant was his in principio. 255 yet wolde he have a furthing, he went. His purchase was wel betre than his raunt. And rage he coude, as it were right a whelp. 260, in love days there coude he much'll help. For there he was not like a cloisterer. 260 with a threadbar cope, as is a pauvre scholar, but he was like a maester or a pope. Of double worsted was his semi-cope, that rounded as a bell out of the presa. 9, 266 to 300. Somewhat ellipsed, for his wantonness. 265 to make his English sweet up on his tongue, and in his harping, one that he had songe, his eye and twinkled in his heat aright. 270, as doom the stairs in the frosty night. This worthy limidar was cleeped Hubert. 208, Wantown. 211, Hn, Mush, Muchel. 213, Lone, Oeen. 215, and restful. 217, HLHN eek, rest omit. 224, HLCM han, ha. 229, hard. 231, wepinge. 232, ehn moot, c note. 234, young, rest fair. 235, hl merry, muri. 237, bar. pt of turley, hl turley, ehn mutrally. 240, al the rest uary. 245, ehn cm ck, pt lane seek, cl 18. 246, cm honest, honeste. 248, sellers. 250, lowly. After L 252, HN the loan inserts LL 252B and 252C, 259. HLCM, cloister, EHN, cloisterer. 260, so all the misses, but with bear, CFL 290. 262, all worsted, badly. 266, PT lane had, rest had. Marchant. A marchant was the with a forked bird, 271 inches modelly, and high on horse he sat, up on his heat of Flandrish bever hat, his boats classed fair and fetusly. His resins he spak full solemnly, 275 sounding alway then crease of his winning. He wolde the sea were kept for anything Bitwick's Middleburg and Orwell. 280, wel coude he in Eschong shield sell. This worthy man full wel his wit by set, 280 the wist no white that he was in debt, so estatly was he of his governance, with his bargains, and with his chevisons. For sud he was a worthy man with ale, but sooth to sayn, I knew how men him caye. 271, Lane Motley, hl Motley, ehn Motley. 272, Bura. 273, CPPT Clapst, hl Clapsud. 274, Heiss. 281, CP Stadley. Clerk. A clerk that was of Oxenford also, 286 that unto logic had Lungewego. As Lena was his or as is a rake, 290, and he is net right fat, I undertake, but looked wholeway, and third soberly. 290 full threadbar was his overest courtopy, for he had geaten him yet no benefice, no was so worldly for to have office. For him was lever have at his bed seed 20 bokes, clad in black or reed, 295 of Aristotle and his philosophy, than robes riche, or fithily, or gay sautry. But I'll be that he was a philosopher, 300, yet had he but litel gold in coffer, 10, t 301 to 336. But al that he might of his friends hent, 300 on bokes, and on learning she had spent, and bisily gone for the soul's prey of him that yaff him wherewith to scolai. Of studi took he most cure and most hotta. Not a word spak he more than was need, 305 and that was said in for me in reverence, and short and quick, and full of high sentence. Soningen moreover too was his spech, 310, and gladly wolde he learn, and gladly teche. 287, and, hl also, rest as. 289, ehn, sobrily, rest soberly. 290, all bear. Hlouerist, ehn cm our rest. 291, CP Lane had, rest had. 293, CP Lane hl lure, rest luere. 300, hl his, rest on. Man of law. A sergeant of the law, war, and wis, 310 that often had been at the parvies, there was also, full reach of excellence. Discreet he was, and of great reverence, he semed switch, his wards wherein so wise. Iestice he was full often in assize, 315 by patente, and by plain commission, for his science, and for his hay renown of fees and robes had he many un. 320, so great a purchaser was nowhere noon. Al was fee simple to him in effect, 320 his purchasing might not been in fact. Nowhere so bicey a man as he therein is, and yet he semed beesier than he was. In terms had he costs and domes Allah, that from the time of King William were fall. 325 thirdo he could indite, and make a thing, there could no white pinch at his writing, and every stated could he plain by rote. 330, he rude but homely in a medley coat girt with a saint of silk, with bars smale, of his array tell I no langer tale. 324, fall, rest fall. 326, ehn, pinchen, rest pinch, pinch. Frankeline. A Frankeline was in his company, whyt was his bird, as is the daysai. Of his complexion he was sanguine. Wel loved he by the moreway a sop and win. 11, t 337 to 370. 335 to liven and delit was ever his wone, for he was Epicurus' own son, that healed opinion, that plain delit was verily felicity parfait. 340, and householder, and that a greet, was he, Saint Julian he was in his country. His breed, his ale, was all we after on, a betray envy Ned man was nowhere noon. With it bake meat was never his house, of fish and flesh, and that so plentivous, 345 it snood in his house of meat and drink, of all the dainties that men could think. After the sundry sessions of the year, 350, so chond he his meat and his soper. Full many a fat partridge had he in mewe, 350 and many a bream and many a lucerne stew. What was his cook, but if his sauce were poignant and sharp, and ready all his gear? His table dormant in his halley always stood ready covered all the lunge day. 355 at sessions there was he lord and sire, full oft time he was knight of the shire. An amlas and a gypsarel of silk, 360, hung at his girdle, whyt is morn milk. A sharif had he been, and a countar, 360 was nowhere such a worthy vavasseur. 332, heed, rest bird, berde. Rest the. 335, ever, HLL 336. CM, oeen, rest own. 338, HL verily, rest very, vere, uri. 340, was he, rest he was. 341, CM lane always, HL always, CP always. 342, HLPT nower, CM manower, rest newer, CFL 360. 349, 350. new, stew. 357, anlas, HLCM anlas. 358, hung. 359, CM OMA. Haberdasher.a and haberdasher and a carpenter, carpenter.a webby, a dyer, and a tapisser, webby. Dyer were with us eke, clothed in old livery, tapisser. Of a solemn and great fraternity. 365 full fresh and new here dear a pike was, here knives were white shaped not with bras, but all with silver, wrought full clean and wheel, 370, here girdles and here pouches every deal. 12, T 371 to 406. Wel Semetek of Hem a fair burgies, 370 to sitten in a yeld hall on a days. Eve rich, for the wisdom that he can, was shaply for to been an alderman. For cattle had they winogan raunt, and eke here wives wold they at Wel assent, 375 and els certian were they to blame. It is full fair to bin wyclept my dame, and goon to vigiles el bifor, 380, and have a mantle royalish wybor. 363, so HL, rest and they were clothed alle. 364, all but HL and A, 366. HL. I chapped, CM, chapped, rest chaped. 370, Yeldahall. 376, declept, HL clept, rest cleaped, cleped. 380, HLOM first the. Cook. A cook they had with hem for the nones, 380 to boil the chickens with the marybones, and prudra marchantart, and gallingale. Wel coude he know a draught of London ale. He coude roast, and seethe, and broil, and fry, make in mortrix, and Wel bake a pie. 385 but great harm was it, as it thought me, that on his shine a mormel had he, 389, for blank manger, that made he with the best. 383, EHL boil, CM boil, rest broil, broil. 388, woninge, HN woning. Shipman. A shipman was there, wanting fare by west, for aught I woot, he was of Dirtamouth. 390 he rode up on a rouncy, as he coutha, in a gown of falding to the knee. A dagger a hanging on a loss had he about his neck under his arm a down. The oat summer had mad his hue al brune, 395 and, certainly, he was a good fellow. Full many a draught of wind had he draw from Berduward, Whyl that the chapman sleep. 400, of nice conscience took he no keep. If that he fought, and had the higher hand, 400 by water he sent a hem home to every London. But of his craft to rekeen Wel his tides, his strams and his dongers him bysides, his herberway and his moan, his load manage, Berineus noon switch from Hull to Carthage. 13, T 407 to 441. For 05 hardy he was, and wis to undertake, with many a tempest had his bird been shake. He knew Wel the havens, as they were, 410, from Goodlund to the Cape of Finisterre, and every crike in Britain and in Spain, for 10 his barge wyclept was the Madeleine. 396 cm. I draw, rest draw. 407 HL ins. WEL, rest OM.